You be good.
shall see how it goes. Well,
We're confident.
Oh, well, thank you. I think you might be a little too confident. A little too confident in my own abilities. That's right. Yeah. Hey, can you get? That sounds good. I'll just stay right here in this one little spot and just not move. Well, I was trying to remember the last time that I taught this class physically, and it was like way before Corona. Yeah, at least. Yeah, because I've only done it a handful of times. So, and then I, covered for Marshall when it was all virtual. It's like, well, it's not really the same. So, what's up? I am. Well, I don't know how in charge is whenever I'm like clicking a button to make sure that it goes, and then I'm sitting up here and working that as well. Awesome. Jason says we're good to go as well. Rachel, you doing good? Just the. All right. Well.
Put my garage door down after I backed out, and it comes down like this, halfway. So, oh no.
What?
So, I go in and I pull the rope and pushed up the side that was too low and tried to lower the whole thing. I finally got it down.
What?
I need a
Fun.
door repairman today.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and with it being, well, I don't know. It felt colder than it really was today, but I'm a weenie whenever it comes to the cold.
Yeah, Mom had the door, like the back door open and the front door open, and I was like,
Oh no,
"Girl, you
not
have it
me.
hot."
Yeah, no. Morgan was like, we're putting on the fire yesterday. I was like, the fire? It's not even. Yeah, okay. Yes, I'm okay with that. But hey, man, yeah, I don't think I'm ready for this weather. Well, as we're getting everybody online, and Jason sent me the thumbs up, so that one button that I had to click apparently works, so that's all right. So you guys think I do a lot back there, right? I do not. I sit there with the headphones in and just constantly say it's good, we're good. So that's about it. But yeah, as we're signing in online, definitely give us a hey, how's it going? I would love to see that, and everything's going well with y'all, right? As far as we know. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of ready for the fall to get here and stay. Because, oh my goodness. Yes, please, let's be done with that. That's what I'm struggling with is I'm putting our kids in, like, because they're freezing. So I'm putting them in sweats or something like that. And then they get home and just, yeah. So I don't know how to do it. It's just like, hey, I'm sorry, you got to be cold this morning because you're going to be sweating later today. So let's not do that anymore. Yeah, I'm ready for it to make up its mind and stuff too. So cool. Well, if you guys are here with us today, Marshall had some cool stuff that he's working on with his youngest, which is awesome. So, whenever your youngest starts looking at colleges and doing college visits and stuff like that, I don't know how that feels, but I'm sure it's difficult. Old. No, I don't think that's the word. Can't be old, right? Well, I don't know if that's what he feels, but you can ask him whenever he gets. Okay, that sounds good. You feel old, Marshall? You feel old? We shall see. Let's go ahead and turn to Deuteronomy chapter 5. We're going to be in verse 21. And if I'm reading all of this right, this is the end of this series, which is crazy. I feel like we just started it. I think I've only been here for about half of those, but so I got the great 5 commandments. So Deuteronomy chapter 5, and we're going to be in verse 21. If you're online, what'd you say?
Hopefully you got the right 5.
I know. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Which ones? I might be missing a couple of really important ones. Yeah, as we're there, if you're online with us, go ahead and turn there or scroll there, whatever you need to do. I'll be honest with you, I'll not ask you a question too. I asked the teenagers this last Sunday, I think, as we're changing seasons and as we're getting into that. This is Morgan's favorite season, and I think it's mine too. And it's the pumpkin spice lattes and the sweatshirts and the fall colors and stuff. And I hope that we get a little bit of a fall, like with the color changes and stuff too. But I think Marshall, I think he said this last week. Like it's just like all the leaves are just gonna drop. They're not gonna change. It's just gonna drop. And that's so sad. That's so sad.
Maples.
Yeah.
Pretty.
I don't have enough of those on my street though, so it's just gonna be green leaves just on the ground. I feel like. So as we're coming into this season, what are some things that you guys crave or desire, or like I want this in this season? Something that makes you feel good, something that you like every season this time of year, something like that. What's something that you crave or that you want in the fall or autumn seasons? Scary movies? Yeah, that's me. I really enjoy scary movies.
I look forward to the craft fairs.
Ooh. Are those coming up soon, by the way?
Next weekend. Or next week, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Real soon.
Nice. I have not been to the War Eagle, so not been to the big one, but there's one at the bottom of our hill. I don't remember what that one's called. But just enough to where it's just enough for me. It's an hour of walking around. Oh, this is nice. Get some popcorn and some barbecue and then go home. But yeah, Morgan will mill around those things for forever. But do you hit all of them up?
Not anymore, but I used to.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Like fires.
Ooh.
Fires, bonfires, just sitting around the fire.
There's something special and a closeness that there is. And we do it every year at your place, at the Glenn's place. If we have a big bonfire on Halloween night or something really close to Halloween. And there's just something special about, here's this giant, scary, could kill you if you get too close to it, fire. It just brings closeness and warmth.
Picture you have the teens all standing in a circle, and the bonfire.
The bonfire's like
all the side height.
10 feet taller than they are. This is nice. But I totally get that. For Morgan, it's as much about warmth and as it is about atmosphere. She loves just to sit there on the couch and watch football while the fire's going. So, yeah, the feel and the atmosphere, I totally feel that. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes. Mainly. Do you, besides Arkansas, are there people that you just like, I've got to watch all the time?
I have to be loyal to the Sooners because I'm from there.
Okay.
So I used to be a huge fan, and I'm just kind of like, I'd rather Arkansas win over you.
Okay.
So
You live here long enough, apparently that's what happens. So.
right, and then like just if it's on, like I'll watch it. I don't care about that team,
Yeah.
but I'm like, or sometimes I don't even know who's playing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm watching it.
Yeah. Morgan is very much so about that with football. And I'm like that too, to a point. At sometimes I'm like, well, I'd like to know like a little bit of background between these people, but I'm definitely like that with baseball. Or I'm like, I can just watch anybody at any time. But yeah, the fact that football can be on like 24/7 on Saturday and Sunday, that's pretty good. I'm okay with that. Anybody else? Cravings or desires this time of year?
I like it all. I like the smell of the wood fire,
Oh,
and I miss that at my house because I have the gas logs. So
Yep.
They're real pretty, but where's the smell?
uh-huh. Pretty and low maintenance, but I would like that crackle and that nice maple smell, whatever that is. Ooh, that sounds good. Yeah. Have any of you guys bought candles yet? 'Cause nobody. Okay.
Apple.
Woo! Oh, yes. Apple pie. I'm ready for it's food season, and I feel like since Marshall sits here, maybe his spirit is sitting right here with me. If food season is upon us, we're coming into Thanksgiving and the pies and the comfort foods, the soups, all of that. I'm ready for that. All right, so you don't have to get super serious super quick, but so that's I'm ready for those things, and I long for those things. I'm excited about those things. Discard the fall and the seasons and stuff. What's something for y'all that's like a deep and earnest longing and desire and craving in your life? And so I'll give you an example for me, and it's we're putting fall to the side. For me, it's there's this deep and utter longing to have accolades, have people tell me I think you did a good job. People clap for me, and to hear that or something like that. Like there's a deep longing and unfortunate spiritual need of that. I need to have that. I need to, like, there's a longing inside of my heart that desires that, whether it be good or bad. But I know that that's a deep longing inside of my heart. Now, is that different than my longing for the wood burned fireplaces? Yeah, because I like that. But there's a deep spiritual. Okay, does that make sense? I'm bearing my soul for y'all right here. What do you guys think? For you guys, doesn't have to be like a sinful thing, but just something that is in your heart that's a deep desire and longing for. If you're online, you can go ahead and put that as well.
Retirement.
Oh, all right. What about retirement in particular?
Being able to just plan my day
Ooh.
around me. Not 10 children running in a classroom.
Yeah, I don't envy that. I'll tell you that. So yeah, being able to do what you want when you please, and have the freedom to do so. That sounds pretty nice. Anybody else?
I thought of travel
Why do you think that is?
because I can't afford to.
Yeah. You know, you would have thought, at least for me, you're saving up a little bit of money to be able to do that post-COVID. I'm realizing I don't think that we didn't save money for that at all. We saved money for other things. So yes, too much Uber Eats and DoorDash bringing you Raising Cane's and everything right to your door. Walmart delivery. Somebody's got to pay for it. Yeah, traveling, I totally feel that. Morgan and I have, I don't know if it's a solid commitment, but we want to go see all of the national parks before we die. So who knows? That'd be awesome. I would love to be able to do that. And we've seen 7 or 8 of them, I think, so far. Maybe not together, but what else? What else you guys think?
I would say alone time.
Hmm.
Or just like time to not, like my brain to like feel like it has time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, you've got a small child too, so coveting any alone time.
It's like a blink and the day's over and it's like, what is happening?
Yes. Something about having kids, I'm realizing it's like, okay, each day goes by so quick, and I only have, the moment in this seat, and this moment goes by so quick, and then all of a sudden they're back in the house and we're cooking dinner and they're asleep, and it's like, well, that's my alone time, is right after asleep. Get everything done from the day. There. Anybody else?
I'm supposed to tell you that Dave won't be here today.
Dave, is he online? Do you know?
That I don't know. He just said Sunday to tell y'all.
Okay. All right. Dave, we miss you. If you're here, we miss you. I miss your presence in the back here. Okay, so we're here in Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 21. We're hitting the last of the 10 commandments. And we're going to hit on what we just talked about real quick. It says right here, Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 21, it says, "You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not set your desire on your neighbor's house or land, his manservant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor." So, what's the main command here?
Be happy with what you have.
Yeah. There we go. Be happy with what you have. There's some contentment there. What did you say?
Do not envy.
We're not going to envy. And we got some special Bible words, it feels like here, like covet. And then there's you shall not set your desire. There's some special stuff here. So let's look at what we're getting at, because there's two different words, and it's the same command, and like you said, it's the heart of the same command. But you've got you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. That's very specific, by the way. Some of these other ones, when we talked 2 weeks ago, you shall not steal. It's like, got it. And this one's you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. And then it's very specific, and then it's broadened a little bit too. God broadens it. He says you shall not set your desire on your neighbor's house, your land, and then his manservant, maidservant, ox or donkey, anything that belongs to your neighbor. So here's something very specific. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. And then also the things that your neighbor has, let's not covet those things either. Let's just keep those over there, right? But there's two different commands, or I guess words. One is you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, and then there's a different word, it's a different Hebrew word here that says, you shall not set your desire on your neighbor's house. And you would think that if they're the same, he would say the same thing. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not covet any of your neighbor's house or land. So there's two different words that are used here. Do you think that obviously there is. Would you think that there's a difference between you shall not covet your neighbor's wife and you shall not set your desire on X, Y, and Z? What do you think the distinctions may be there?
Desire is more of like almost like you desire something, you're gonna like work towards it, like try to achieve it. Where covet is more like just you want it. Like, I don't know. I feel like desire is a little bit more of a stronger.
There's a.
You might work for something you desire.
Say again.
You might work for something you desire.
Right. But coveting is just like the
Yeah. I
I want it, but then I'm gonna like I don't know.
yeah. It's an important distinction, but it's kind of lost too, because I desire food, but do I, I desire particular, apple pie, but am I coveting apple pie? Like, if you bring apple pie for you but not for me, am I, coveting that? And I mean, I think so. There's some, like we said, core things here. So these two particular words, we'll talk about set your desire. It's what we talked about. It's kind of like the first question that we asked. It's something that I'd like to have. I would like to have coffee every morning, because it's a desire that I have. Is it an addiction that I need to fill? Maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't been that hard on myself yet. But it's definitely something that I desire. I want the campfires. I want the football games and stuff too. And the word here, I mean, think about the things that he uses. He says, covet, and then your neighbor's wife, and then desire. It's not quite of equal importance, because you've got your neighbor's house or land, and then all of the objects, or manservant, maidservant, object, or ox, donkey, anything that belongs to your neighbor. And so covet here, so set your desire is like, yeah, I want that. I would like those things. I desire coffee. I desire friendships and stuff like that. But covet is just a little bit more deep, I guess. Covet is something that's more. It's something that is down inside your inner being, something that's in your core, in your heart. Something that's slow cooked for a while. I don't know about you guys getting out the slow cookers and stuff. We're getting ready for the pot roast and stuff too, but it's something that you sit there for a while and you long for it. And something that I found super, super interesting as I'm looking at this, it's this same word for covet is translated elsewhere as lust. And at least in my mind, that's a pretty big jump, because whenever we think about lust, we're like, this is something with your eyes and allowing your heart to take you somewhere else, not necessarily sexually, but like allowing these thoughts of something that I see to just kind of consume you from the inside until it moves you to do something on the outside. At least that's what I think. So it's something that we're lusting after or longing after. Ooh, there's some evilness in it. Marshall was an awesome guy, and he kind of handed me some of his notes that he had on the topic, and was like, do whatever you want with it and stuff. To something that he said that I thought was really, really cool. He was talking about how coveting it's kind of like these other things, that it's a process that starts out very, very small. We talked about just in some of the other 10 Commandments, of how it starts off really small, but if you leave some of these things unchecked, this is where it leads to. This just says, you shall not murder. And then we got to the heart of, man, we don't even want to be angry with our brother and sister and say, what was it, raka? If somebody that says raka is judgment to the fires of hell, it's like, oh, okay. Well, it's different than murdering somebody, but at the heart of it, it starts here. And I think it's the same thing. He said this, it's an unchecked desire. So, and we're going to talk about this in a second. But so, I mean, right here it says, don't covet your neighbor's wife. So let's use that as an example. It's an unchecked desire. You could recognize that the spouse of somebody else is attractive and say, oh yeah, they're attractive and I can see that. But the unchecked desire of, I'm going to dwell and linger a little bit more, and doesn't necessarily have to be, your friend's spouse or something like that. It's other things too. Look at their car. And I can think, that's a nice car, but why am I driving a beater? Why am I driving, how come they get a better car and I don't? He said it's an unchecked desire for specifically something that you have, right? There's two characters in this command, which I think is very interesting. The main character that we're talking about is, you yourself. He says, you shall not covet. But who's the second character in this particular command? Because they show up 5 times in one sentence, 2 sentences. It's got to be your neighbor. This was really interesting to me. So you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. So we're talking about our neighbor. You shall not set your desire on your neighbor's house, his manservant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So there's 5 times in these 2 sentences in this one law that we're talking about somebody else. Which is interesting. because this command, it's this unchecked desire for something that they have. So specifically, it's not just, I desire coffee, but it's how come Paulette got coffee and I didn't get coffee? She came early and got her coffee. No, ma'am, not today. But something like that, silly. But it's looking and saying, okay, this is an unchecked desire for something that Paulette has. So I can go grab coffee myself, but I want hers in particular, the way that she makes her coffee. And so it's unchecked desire for something that you have and something that I'm willing to take as well. So I'm willing to say, oh man, you know what? Maybe there's a way to say, I'm going to be able to take that myself. Is there a way that I can somehow, maybe through deceit or something, get that what they have, or just straight up take it and steal? And we've talked about that before. And the last part, he says, it's this unchecked desire in your heart for something that you have that I am willing to take, and this part got me, because I deserve it. Because I deserve it. Yes, Rachel. Oh, hey, that's the point. Because I deserve it, and that's exactly what you're talking about with coveting. It's not just this. I like to watch football. It's fun. It's this. There's something that you have that I am allowing my heart to take and hold on to, and it grows bitterness between you and I. And at the same time, I can say, man, how come they got the promotion? How come they got the promotion? I'm the one that deserves it. I did a lot more work. I put in a lot more effort. I put in more time. And this is ridiculous. I desire that, and I've worked for it, and I deserve it more than them. And so not only that, I'm going to go to my boss and tell them that I worked for it harder, and so they should give me the promotion instead. And it's like, oh, okay. That's a heart character issue of superiority and pride. And so whenever we're just talking about coveting your neighbor's wife and desiring something, this is something that is deep down and saying, this is something that you have, and I've left this desire unchecked, something that you have that I want, and I deserve it more than you do, so I'm just willing to take it from you myself. Whether that's, that's intense. That's going to your boss and saying like, hey, I heard this, and this, so that you can get the promotion instead of them. Like, this is pretty deep and incredibly selfish at the heart. So we can kind of see why God is talking about that. It's not just this simple, yeah, I'd like to have that. This is relational, number one, and it's very, very core and central of pride and superiority. And both of those things, God is not down for. And he's not going to leave it unchecked. So it's not simply about possessions and like things that I would like that, I would want that. It's about the relationship with that person. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Let's turn to James chapter 4, all the way in your Bibles, almost all the way to the right. It's right after Hebrews, James chapter 4. Does anybody remember who James is? He's a particular character with a particular family. Hey, Jesus' half brother. James has a really particular character because he grew up with Jesus. Now many people can say that. It was like, yeah, like Jesus was my half brother. Okay, that's pretty. So he has watched Jesus from his childhood all the way up. One might say that he might know a thing or two about Jesus' character and who he is and stuff too. So here James is in James chapter 4. Let's read verses 1 through 3. He says this: "What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from the desires that battle inside of you?" It's an internal thing, not an external thing. "You want something, but you don't get it. You kill and covet, but you can't have what you want. You quarrel and fight, and you do not have because you don't ask God. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures." What sticks out to you guys about this verse? I love James too because he just gets right to the point. Go ahead.
Kind of reminds me of David.
Ooh, did you read my notes?
No?
Okay. How's it remind you about David?
Well, because he saw Bathsheba, he wanted it, he couldn't have her, so he killed,
Wow.
He had relations, and then to try to fix it. He kills her husband. He, does all the stuff
That's a
to try to
pretty
make up for.
pretty big mess. Yeah, to try and make up for that. And we're going to talk about that story in just a second, actually. So I'm right there with you. But man, we've got some pretty big words here. I mean, whenever we're coveting, what's the response of that? There's fighting and quarreling. Something about I desire something that Marilyn has, and it's unchecked. We're going to fight. Something about that. There's a bitterness that's going to develop. There's a superiority in my own self that's going to develop and say, I can't see you as a child of God because I'm seeing myself as above, and the something that you have is something that I want to take. You don't deserve it, and I do. So I would like that. Oh, and so he says fighting and quarreling, and he says it's a battle that's inside of you. It's something that you have to check inside of yourself. He says you want something, but you don't get it, so you kill and covet. Man, you're not sure, but I think that Paulette might be right, where James is possibly looking back at the story of David and Bathsheba, because everybody knows that story. Even in Jesus' time, everybody knows that story. So he might say, you kill and you covet, and you can't have what you want. You can't have what you want. Does David end up having what he wants at the end? But for a price. The son that's born because of that relationship ends up dying. And it's like, man, there's a price. And so not only killing somebody else, but a direct effect of that relationship is that his son dies. And he says you can't have what you want. You quarrel and fight, and you don't have why. You don't have why.
Because you do not ask God.
You're not asking God. I myself am saying, or asking with the wrong motives. God, I want what Marilyn has, and I'm going to do something about it, and I'm going to take it, but I'm not willing to, what we talked about earlier, I'm not willing to go through the work to get it for myself. I'm not even willing to have a conversation about, is there a way that, not that we can share it, but, the relationship is just being severed there. He says you're asking with wrong motives.
Selfish motives.
Oh, what does that look like? What does that look like in our lives then, you think? Asking with selfish motives. Anybody pray prayers like that all the time? I remember in youth ministry, my youth minister always used to be like, you don't pray for an Xbox, because what is that? And I was like, well, I want one. So God says ask and receive. So, Jeff, that's his name, Jeff, I'm going to pray for it anyway. You're asking for the wrong motives here. It's, God, give me that car, give me that house. Because why? God, I would like to have, you're almost making a deal with God. If I have this house, if I have this job, I'll be able to give so much more. And these might be good motives. I'll be able to give. God, if I have this, I'll bring people over all the time. I'll allow this place to be a place where your people can come together. And if I get this job, I'll get more. And those are good motives. But maybe it's, I want this house because sure as heck, I'm not going to let Rachel be above me. She's not going to get a better house. She's not going to get a better car. Sorry, but it's just not happening, Rachel. I'm just kidding. Yeah, right. It's what, there's some wrong motives here. And it says here that you may spend what you get on your pleasure. So even if you get it, you're not going to spend it on things that are of God. You're going to spend it on yourself. There is a pride and a superiority. All of that it's not simple jealousy. It's that all of that stuff is in our hearts whenever we covet our neighbor's wife. Man, that's interesting. So I'd wager that James isn't solely talking about possessions here. I think he's talking about a lot more. So what else could we covet in our lives? It's easy to think more about possessions. Because that's what he says here. And he says, too, you're not going to covet your neighbor's wife as if it's a possession, but we're not going to covet that relationship. But then he goes and says a bunch of things, too. He says your neighbor's house, the land that they live on, the people that work for him, and his donkey, anything that belongs to your neighbor. So push possessions aside. What are some other things that we can covet in our daily lives? And, man, there's a mountain of them, I will say.
There's a lot that we probably don't even realize anymore, like the social media and everything else. Like I don't know. I think it's necessarily like a direct coveting, but almost just a feeling of it's really hard to feel contentment
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about that
through that.
in a little bit too.
And there's always just so much comparison.
Yeah.
It's just there. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else, but like yesterday, I found it so funny when like Facebook was down, and I sat there just wondering like, are there people that are freaking out right now? And there were like.
Yeah.
What's going on? I don't know.
Yeah. Wait a minute. I don't have a way to communicate of what's happening. I have to text them. I saw a tweet, or I think it was a post, and this is social media. You see a post of a tweet of somebody. It was on Instagram, and it was like, everybody's freaking out that Instagram and Facebook are both down, but we fail to worship the one who will never let you down. I was like, wow, okay, make a little spiritual, something like that. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But man, isn't that this is coming from me who spends more time than he should on social media. Now I have checks on my social media where I only get 30 minutes a day or something. Even that, Morgan's like, that's too much. But even that it's so easy to look at our friends, to see this is me. You see your friends and their family dynamics. I see guys and girls that I graduated with and be like, how do you have that much money already? How do you have that house? And your kids look like angels, and I'm sure that they are. I'm sure that they never cry. I'm sure they never have to get scolded or anything like that. And it's really easy for us as we're scrolling. I kind of like the way you said it too. It's not like I'm going to stare at it and say, I want what you have, and your life is better than mine, and then keep scrolling. It's man, how come they're taking a vacation right now? They've got extra money for vacation? Oh. Tell me more about that, because I like that.
Well, if I covet what you have, I'm judging whether you should have it or not. I've placed myself in a position that I don't have any business being in.
Is anybody hurting a little bit, sweating?
You can even go so far to like judge it more to be like, they don't deserve that.
Yeah.
Or it's not true. Or all their life is a lie.
Yeah. This is something that I struggle with. I'll see somebody posting myself. I'm like, I don't know how you afford that. I don't know how you afford that. And what? What am I in charge of their finances? Like, I'm in a place where I can say, yeah, you for sure can afford. What kind of prideful? Come on now. Yeah, there's a judgment and superiority, and we think that we have the right to be in this place. Ouch. I feel that. Social media, for sure. Let's check ourselves. What else? What are some things besides objects that we can covet, or that we have in the past, or are currently coveting? Anybody want to come out and say?
I think relationships, especially with parent and child, where you had maybe a bad childhood experience, and your neighbor had great parents and a great relationship with their parents, and you look at them and think, well, why didn't I get that? Why weren't my parents like their parents? Or
Yeah.
True. Agree.
And wondering, like, was it something that I did? Was it something that they did? And how come I didn't get that? Because I'm suffering now because of that. Because you don't leave your childhood in your childhood, right? You die with those thoughts. You die with those. And that's just the way that you were raised. And those things can't be erased either. It's your family of origin. There's an artist that I really like, a music artist that I like, and he talks all the time in his music about his dad issues, because his dad left his family and stuff all the time. And this is a guy that's 33 now, and he talks about that all the time in albums that just came out like 3 days ago and albums that came out 10 years ago. He's still struggling with it, and it's a question of like, how come I got it easy? How come I got it easy where I got to have all these things, and I got to play ball with my dad, but he doesn't get to have those things? And to really, that's something, I think that's interesting in just the way that you put it, stuff too, of I want that. And it's not something that you can even take because it's already happened. But I can dwell and look and desire and say, and have a bitterness towards people that were absent in my life or didn't do something that I wanted in their life, and be bitter towards God. I didn't deserve this. I didn't deserve this. Ooh, ouch.
Which I love when Marshall preaches on Mother's Day or Father's Day about how, when you didn't have that parent, and what honoring.
Yeah.
You don't have to, to honor that.
Yeah.
Person if they weren't, if they're not a godly person, if they
Yeah.
did abuse you or whatever the situation was.
Yeah. And I was talking with somebody recently about like how do you fix that? Because you pray to God I want a new dad. I want somebody that's in there. And realizing a conversation that I had with a close friend, he's like, the way that he is fixing that is becoming that himself. He's becoming the dad that he needed. And like, how sobering is that? But how scary to covet those things and to want those things and allow your heart to become bitter. And I think unchecked can allow your heart to be in a place where you don't need to be. These are really good examples, by the way. Let's like one more thing. Let's do one more thing.
I struggle with envying other people's confidence. Like, or just in yourself, and then being, like, I question almost like everything I say or do,
Yeah.
or like I leave a situation and not feeling confident in that relationship or confident in what I shared with someone, or being in front of people, like what you do. It's like, man, that is, it takes a lot of confidence, like in my mind, it's like, you have to, I don't know, it's brave, and like sometimes I dwell on like my lack of.
Yeah. Yeah. How come they can do it with ease, or they can have conversations with ease, or how do they walk away from that experience and not dwell on it? Like, yeah, I totally feel that. And our generation, and particularly the millennials, and just, I think it's more of like the 2021, like us. There's an anxiousness about like, man, why do I think about these things? Why do I dwell on these things? And how come these people don't? And I just want these character traits. I wish I was more this. I look at the different people in this room, and I can say, I want to be more of what you have, and I want to be more of what you have, and more of what you have. And there's a discontent, kind of like what Laurie said earlier. There's a discontent about, how come I'm not? Is there something wrong with me? It's, oh man, that's a dark and slippery path that's hard to get out of.
I think holding a grudge too, because then if something happens to that person, that serves them right.
Yeah.
That they brought it on themselves.
Yeah.
You held a grudge against them for some other weird reason.
Yeah.
It makes you happy when
Oh, but does it really? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
people do that. I mean, you've got to check what you're
Yeah.
thinking of here.
Man, for Christians to be in a spot where we're excited to watch people fall, that's hard. That is hard. But that's the unchecked desire. Unchecked desire, and not allowing ourselves to let go of those things. Well, let's move from here. So what's cool is that I think what James is pointing at too is that the same problems that were happening 2,000 years ago are the same problems of today as well. Our problems and the things that we covet are no different than the things that were happening in Jesus' time. And it's like comforting to know that we're among ancient friends, and that we're all in the space with friends and stuff here too, that we all struggle with whatever it may be, with coveting and stuff as well. Solomon would say, man, there's nothing new under the sun. Are you coveting this? Well, yeah, people have been doing those things for a long time, so we can have confidence and we can have comfort in that this isn't new. This is something that people have struggled with for a long time. Yeah. So we've already talked about it a little bit too. Let's turn back to the Old Testament, back to 2 Samuel. We're gonna dive in just a little bit more to the story of David and Bathsheba, because it is the case study, in my opinion, the case study for this commandment. Yeah, but realizing that we no longer. Sometimes it's not just about possessions; it's about what other people have, whether that be, desires or family or a house or popularity or position or family dynamic. I'm right there with you guys too. And so Galatians 5:26 says, let us not become conceited, provoking and envying each other, this bitterness and conceited. So there's this incredibly tragic Bible drama that's just ringing in my ears, and I think it was in Paulette's ears and probably the rest of y'all's for this story in 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel chapter 11, we're just going to read the first couple of verses and talk about it. So we've got this, and starting in verse 1 of 2 Samuel chapter 11. It says, "In the spring of the year, when kings normally go out to war, David sent Joab and the Israelite army to fight the Ammonites." One sentence, but it's packed with a lot of meaning, because in the time whenever kings go out to war, the king did not go out to war. Awesome. And I know that Marshall, was this last year, went through all of this, and there's so much to unpack there. But something's wrong with David. David is not where he is supposed to be. He should be out fighting, but instead he's putting himself into a place of vulnerability and a place of comfort. It doesn't really tell you why, but we know that David is not where he is supposed to be. In the time when kings go out to war, the king did not go out to war. And I think the author is trying to be like, something bad is about to go down, something uncomfortable. Verse 2. Continue on, verse 1. And they destroyed the Ammonite army, and they laid siege to the city of Rabbah. However, David stayed behind in Jerusalem. Verse 2. Late one afternoon, some versions say, it happened in this way. After his midday rest, David's just chilling. He's supposed to be at work, but he called in sick and didn't give a good response. David got out of bed, and he's walking on the roof of his palace, something that he probably normally did. Nothing inherently bad about this. But as he looked out over the city, he noticed a woman of, my version says, unusual beauty taking a bath. I don't know exactly what that is. What does yours say, Paulette?
Just beautiful.
Just
Very beautiful.
Okay. Very beautiful. Okay. I don't know why I'm reading from the New Living Translation right now, but just unusual. Whatever it is, it's catching his eye. And she's out there taking a bath. Is there anything wrong with her going out and taking a bath on her rooftop? This is a 2021 conversation. Is what happens to her fault?
No, should have put a screen up.
Yeah, come on, man. Let's just put something, like get back behind some, papyrus reeds or something like that.
Buildings are taller than her. Actually, they're going to be seeing her.
This is true. Who's...
Bathe inside. Get off the
Yeah. So, I didn't do very much research into this prior to this. I have in the past, but this is where you do it. You're not going to do it. I guess you could do it in your house, but it's easier. The sun is shining on you, and she's just taking a bath in a basin. Maybe that's where her. Yeah, it's common. It's not out of place. And actually, kind of like what you said, it would be more secluded than normal. Who else is going to see her if you've got all of this on one level? Nobody else is going to see her except for the palace, which is big. And is this the first time that David has seen her?
That's what I was getting ready to ask.
Yeah. What do you guys think? I don't know if we have enough time to really get into it, but what do you guys think?
He didn't know who she was.
He didn't know who she was because he sends. Let's keep going. 3. He sent someone to find out who she was, and he was told. She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam and the wife of the Hittite. My version ends in a period. I don't know about y'all's. Some other versions are, is this not Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? It's interesting. Now, I don't know if this is the first time that he has seen her. Maybe, he's the king. I'm not sure, and I don't want to put words or make this into something that it's really not. It may or may not have been the first time that he has seen her. Whatever it is, here's the unchecked desire. Now, for David to see her, wrong place, wrong time. He's not where he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be out at war. He's supposed to be out fighting, but instead he's at home chilling on his rooftop, enjoying some, grapes and like leaves being whatever. But instead he's not. And there's a couple of opportunities for him here where he can say, oh man, I need to get away from this moment right now. He's got the Holy Spirit inside him, and he's a man after God's own heart. He's a good dude. So he can say, man, I saw something I'm not supposed to see, bounce my eyes, go and reorient myself. Don't allow myself to think the thoughts that I'm thinking right now. But here's the coveting. This is an unchecked desire. This is an unchecked desire for, I'm going to look and then look away and then allow myself to look a little bit longer and allow my mind to wander into places where it's not supposed to go. This is not great. And so he inquires about here, who is, you see that? Who is that? Can you figure that out? And the servant goes and finds out. And the servant, this is my opinion, the servant is more holy than David is. He says, sir, is this not the wife of another man? Like, he's giving David an opportunity. Yeah, hey, buddy, I don't know why you're inquiring about her, but let me tell you, she's definitely married. And is married to Uriah. And Uriah is actually one of David's mighty men. He's one of the guys that were in David's circle. So he might have met Bathsheba before. I'm not sure, but he inquires about her and is wondering about, who is she, making sure. Maybe I'm not sure. I won't put that there. But so, well, let's just keep going because everything happens so quickly here. Verse 4. Then David sent messengers to go get her. So he had an opportunity and say like, no. Not okay. I didn't bounce my eyes. I lingered too long. Unchecked desire. I have an opportunity to say, man, David, what are you doing? No. You don't do that. To leave her be. But David sends messengers to go get her. Does she have a choice? No. Heck no. It's the king. And whenever she came to the palace, he slept with her. And she had just completed her purification rites after her menstruational period. So prime opportunity for her to become pregnant. And then she returned home. It's so quick. And later, when Bathsheba discovered that she was pregnant, she sent a message to David saying, I'm pregnant. Oh, no. What are David's options? After this happens, what are David's options? Because he's got a couple.
Get her husband home and be his child.
Here we go. And that's exactly what he does. He said, okay, well, to fix this, I'm going to bring the husband home so that he can impregnate her, whatever it is. But Uriah, this is the second person in the story, has more honor and is more godly than David is. Come on now. 2 times he tries to get her to go and sleep with her, but he's got more honor. He said, it's so crazy because he says, how could I do that? How could I possibly go and sleep with my wife, which he has the right to do? Your army, your people are out on the front lines fighting, and I'm not there. They're sleeping out on, in tents in the wilderness, and I'm not going to sleep with my wife because they don't have the opportunity to do that. I'm going to sleep on the rug, on the doormat. He's got so much more honor than David does. So his options, that obviously didn't work. So what's the second best option? Let's kill the dude. Let's get rid of him. That's just fantastic. Man, what's going on here with David? This is just ridiculous. So murder. So he tries to make it look like it's Uriah's kid. That doesn't work. And so he writes a note to Joab, the army general, and he sends it in the pocket of Uriah. So he says, here, I want you to take this message to the general, and it's his own death note. He takes his own death note, and it's his execution orders. Takes him, hands it to Joab, and that's exactly what happens. And golly. And in verse 20, what is this? Yeah. So all of that stuff happens, and then at the very end of that chapter, verse 26, after he has done all that, he says, whenever Uriah's wife heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him. She involuntarily sleeps with the king and becomes pregnant, and the king murders her husband. Awesome. So she mourns for him. Verse 27, when the period of her mourning was over, David sent for her and brought her to the palace. And she became one of his wives, and she gave birth to a son. And the Lord was displeased with what David had done. David covers his up. He's good to go. The only person that knows what happened is he and Bathsheba, and he's good to go. Man, this is the case study for this commandment. Check it. It's an unchecked desire. This is something that I want. And he says it right here. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. It's the very particular thing. For some reason, God said this is a very specific command. Don't just covet the things and the round there. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. And why? Have we talked about this before? This is something that's happening. I'm allowing myself to have this unchecked desire, and it's leading into things like this happening. Maybe not necessarily killing the other person, but I'm definitely going to do something that's unsavory, possibly by force. It's this unchecked desire for something that somebody else has that I'm willing to take myself because I'm better. And this is David too. I'm the king. I can do whatever I want. Here's a superiority I have the power to take, and so I will take. Oh, this is intense. Well, while we've just got a couple of minutes left, I want to touch on something that Laurie said about discontent. This is something that I think that we can all struggle with, of this, just a general discontent. And it can have stuff to do with coveting, but a discontent of, I'm just waiting for the next thing. If I just get the next car, if I just get the next house, if my kids would just do this, then I'll feel better. Or if if my past, if these couple things would be resolved, then things would be fine. If I just had these things, if I had better relationships, then I would become content and I would be good. I wouldn't covet anything else because I've already got everything that I need. And if I have everything that I need and all those things are in check, then I'm good and I'm content. And there's a general discontent. How would you describe discontent to somebody who didn't know what it was? How would you describe discontent to somebody who didn't know what discontent was?
Well, we used to tell our kids, like, as they got older and started getting on YouTube and even social media and all that other stuff, is, we used to tell them, it brings the whole world literally to you. So you're going to discover things that you might want or covet that you would otherwise never even know existed, and all of a sudden the things that you have don't look as good, right? It's kind of like that whole, like, someone brings you vanilla ice cream and you think it's the best thing ever till the person sits down next to you with the whole sundae with all the toppings.
Oh, whoops.
That's what the internet does for our kids.
Yeah.
And we noticed it, like, right off the bat, and, like, so we tried to have those conversations, but it's the same thing with us adults. Think about how much you wouldn't know about your friends' lives if you weren't on social media with them, and you could be so much happier and not have those, like, those feelings. And so, and that's what I tell the kids. It's just about, making it so that what you have just doesn't seem good and good enough.
That's crazy, because that's what discontent does, right? I have something that's good, something that I enjoy, but now it is secondary because you have something that's better. So we're taking God's good gifts and allowing that bitterness and coveting to turn them into, this is not good enough. Actually, this is trash. I don't want this vanilla ice cream anymore, because if I can't have that, I don't want this. Ouch. Ouch. All right, anybody else? I think that's a really good answer.
I think discontent can also get in your head because it's not only about the things that you don't have, but you see people who are achieving things and doing things, and you're doing great in your life, but you're not doing next level.
Ooh.
You need to hit that next level, and you need to get that, and you need to, whatever it is, and it's good to have goals, but when you're constantly downing yourself and downing almost God, not trusting Him anymore, because you're like,
Yeah.
well, is this a part of my plan? Obviously, I need to be hitting these levels and hitting these levels. So that can be discontent all of its.
Yeah, it's robbing us of joy. It's robbing us of joy. We talked about this before. I say we, Marshall, of comparison killing joy. Of, here's A and B, apples and oranges, but I'm not allowed to have joy in myself or be able to be proud of the things that I've accomplished, because I've got 15 more rungs that I need to go up of. And I'm not allowing myself to feel that contentness, because I've got a long ways to go and I've got years to get there. Oh, ouch. Yes. Oh, yeah. I know for sure that's a pressure for, you get right out of college and stuff too. And there's like all right, if I'm not, married by this point, if I'm not having kids by this point, if I'm not, here at this point, if I don't make this much money by this point, I'm not, here in my career by this point, then we failed, and we're not even allowing ourselves to be content and joyful in the places that we are at the same time too. Not a fan of the timeline, and I think that cripples us. I think that cripples us too. Solomon, who was the wisest man to ever live, that asked for wisdom and stuff too. Feel like if we really want to understand discontent, you just read Ecclesiastes. Maybe you guys ever read Ecclesiastes? Of like, it's not exactly one of those books that I really want to be encouraged today. So let's go read Ecclesiastes. It's in the wrong context. It's super, super bitter and super discontent of, I've tried everything. Maybe life is found in sex. Maybe life is found in alcohol. Maybe life is found in possessions. And he travels all of these paths. And every single one of those paths, whenever he gets all of those things, he's able to have all of those things. They all lead to a space of discontent. Golly, so cute. He says, man, I chased it all and everything falls short. That's exactly what he does. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's our American culture, kind of like what you said, of we're always chasing the next. We're always chasing what's next for me. I'm content for a day after I get this new job, but then I have other places I've got to go. Those kinds of things, or I've got this promotion, but I need a bigger promotion. I've got a house, but my friends just got a bigger house. I got a really nice car, but next year they're gonna come out with a car that's exactly like mine, but better. That's the deal with the phones these days too. Of like, man, I just got the brand new, whatever, but in 1 year, obsolete, and I've got to get something new because I don't have I think the next thing that's on the phone is like a better camera, I think. But by golly, I'm going to spend $1,200 so that I can get that better camera. Oh, man. Or maybe it's, my child went to a prestigious school, but my friend's child went to a better school. Or my kid got all B's. Well, that kid got all A's. Well, now my kid got all A's. Yeah, but your kid didn't have perfect attendance. So, oh, no. Solomon said it, and I have to remind myself this all the time. He said, the eye sees and is never satisfied. The eye sees and it's never satisfied. You are never, and we always think, if I just get to this moment, if all of those things come together and I have everything that I want, the wisest man in the whole world, wisdom given by God, says, once you have everything that you want, it falls woefully short of what you need. C.S. Lewis said it like this, the fact that there are no desires on this earth that can fully satisfy us in the way that we need points to the fact that we're not made for this world. We need something that's different, something that's full. And there's been, teaching this kind of stuff to the teenagers, there's a interview that Brad Pitt, who could be more famous than Brad Pitt, that Brad Pitt did, and he was like, man, here I am at the height of my career. This a couple years ago, height of my career. Everybody knows who I am. He's been in dozens and dozens of movies, high dollar movies. And he said in this thing, man, if this is what life is like, this is a guy that has everything. If this is what life is like, then there's got to be something more, because this is not enough for me. And there's a guy, or I was talking about an artist just a little bit ago, a little guy that was doing shows in his garage that ended up doing stuff. He's going to be at the AMP in not too long. His name is NF, or that's his whatever. He has a song where he's got platinum records, millions of dollars. God answered all the prayers that he's been praying for his entire life. And he's got one song where he just says, man, this is it. I finally have everything that I want. And if this is what it feels like to have everything that you want, then it's all a sham. And it's all a sham. And that's us too. So here we are coveting all the things, these unchecked desires, and realizing even if we did take those things, even if we did have those things, we would still be discontent. We would still have holes in our heart. Ouch. Paul said this in 2 Corinthians. He said, man, God is able to bless us abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you'll be able to do, you will abound in every good work. He says, man, God's given us everything that we need. And God's blessed us abundantly. An overflowing cup. And coveting takes that away from us, because the cup isn't as nice. It's not as big of a cup. It's not bejeweled like my friends' cups. And the content inside of the cup isn't as good as what my friends. We're not going to do that. So how do we put this into practice? Gratitude journals is a big way. I'm assuming that Marshall's going to start talking about that in November as we talk about Thanksgiving and gratitude. There's some scientific studies. He's okay. I feel that, buddy. As we take stock of the things in our lives that we're thankful for and that we're grateful for. There was some studies that said if you take 1 minute out of all the minutes that you have all day long, 1 minute as you're falling asleep or sometime in the day, and just say, man, God, I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful that I'm I'm breathing right now. I'm thankful for good health. I'm thankful for the bed that I'm sleeping in. If we do that once, for 1 minute every single day, then in a month's time, that general optimism and happiness, like scientifically, is greater and happier because you're content. You're saying, here's the things that I have here, and I can take those things. And stuff too, the other thing I could think of was radical generosity of we covet the things that other people have because we have a discontent with the things that we have. And so being able to give the things that we have helps us realize that, like, instead of I'm going to take what Marilyn has, I'm going to radically give to Marilyn. Even though I want the things that she has, I'm going to radically give to her, to people that are in need. I don't have very much, by the way, so I don't know. I've got, do you want a PlayStation? I can give. Yeah, I prayed for that. He gave. But, radical generosity combats that as well. So I think that's really all that I've got you guys for the do not covet at the very end. I've enjoyed this study and stuff too, at least the couple that I've been able to make. So any questions or comments or rhymes, limericks, or haikus? Anybody want to come out? Sometimes my teenagers will come out with a haiku. I'm like, awesome, but it's ridiculous. Cool. Well, if you're online, thank you so much for joining with us. Sorry I couldn't get to your comments and stuff too. When it's a one-man show, it's kind of hard to do all of that as well. But yeah, thank you guys for being with us, and we'll see you next week. I'm not exactly sure where Marshall's going next week, but I'm sure it will be riveting somewhere. Yeah, no problem. Absolutely. Ooh.